Episode 3 of The Penguin's out. This was probably my favorite episode so far. I feel like this is the one where everything finally kind of comes together. Each character is developed enough that you fully understand what's going on and who they are. This is kind of Victor's episode overall. I really like the direction that they seem to be going with him, where it looks like he was pretty iffy on this lifestyle the first couple episodes, and this is the one where he fully commits. We get something similar with Sophia and Oz's relationship as well, where she's kind of like not sure what to make of him, but then this one she finally buys in. And even then, she still expresses reluctance, but she's willing to take the risk. And this is also the one where I feel like Oz, who was kind of playing his cards close to the chest, finally goes all in. So overall, I really enjoyed this one. And I think it's going to set up for a pretty interesting second half of the season. Well, 5/8. So to start off, we get Vic talking to his parents. This is a flashback of when the Riddler flooded the city and he lost his family. And the conversation they're having is he's trying to tell his dad, like, hey, you could probably get a little bit more money for this. You probably deserve more so we could have a better lifestyle because they live in the projects. And his dad is like, we have plenty if you remember where we came from. And I'm assuming because this show is actually well written that this is going to be a setup for later on for Victor becoming greedy and it biting him in the ass. But even for this episode, I really like it because it shows his decision making as a character. Because as the episode goes on, he has to decide if he's okay just to run away, kind of live as a poor kid, or fully go in with the Penguin. Obviously, he chooses to fully go in with the Penguin and does something he can't undo. So I really like this little conversation to sort of show his mindset and his ambition to start the episode and how it fits thematically with the rest of the episode. And I think there's also something to be said for the fact that his dad wasn't more ambitious, and because they lived in the poor part of the city that got flooded, their family got killed. So the show, at least from Victor's perspective, I think is taking that position that it's better to be ambitious than to be grateful for what you have. At least for now, my guess is that will change by the end of the season, and that his overambition will be his downfall. And I like this conversation to start off between Oz and Vic, because we can see Oz is slowly kind of taking him in, and by the end of the episode, you can see the emotional attachment that Oz has to Victor, and how much it hurts him that Victor is considering leaving. And I like how straightforward he is with him. He's like, yeah, you fucked up, but it's done with, you learned, move on. Don't make the same mistakes again. And I think you're getting to see more of him be, motivating him with the carrot than the stick as the show goes on, and putting more trust in him and not threatening him nearly as much. And you can also see Vic at this point is really undecided about the lifestyle that he wants to live. Because at this point, he's just not fully committed to this kind of gangster lifestyle. And then Sophia shows up. Oz is actually on the phone with the Maronis, so Victor has to go talk to Sophia. And obviously, he's super uncomfortable. And he just says that he's Oz's driver, and he kind of gives like a bullshit excuse of being a mechanic. And we find out here that Oz used to be her driver. And we don't know the details yet, but we do find out that he's the one who got her put away in Arkham for all those years later on. So Sophia, because she doesn't trust the rest of her family, lets Oz drive her, and she lets him in on everything going on. And that this drug is from this like fungus on the mushroom, and it's some kind of hallucinogen that they used in Arkham to calm the crazy people down. And she wants this to be the new drug of the city. So by stepping outside the family, she can take control and use Oz's distribution network to get it done. So Victor is just kind of hanging out at Oz's place, and his girlfriend comes over, and it's unclear why they weren't in touch before, but she says, hey, I'm leaving tomorrow. I'm going to move to California. Everything here is gone. I want you to come meet me on the bus out of town. And at this point early in the episode, he seems like he really wants to, but he's also more scared of leaving than he actually wants to stay in this lifestyle with Oz. And this is a really good setup for his arc in this episode, because we see that he starts out wanting to leave and get out of this lifestyle, but then Oz gives him $1,000. He's like, this is your weekly pay. He has these hot chicks hitting on him who are on drugs. He's getting trusted as the bag man near the end of the episode. And the lesson that he kind of takes away over the course of the episode is either he can be poor or he can kind of take what he wants and get into this lifestyle. And even when he seems like he's going to leave, Oz is like, you're not a fucking hostage, go. Like, get the hell out. And we can see how much Oz is bothered by it in that scene. That he takes it very personally, that he finds Vic relatable, and Vic was just going to roll out like that. So this scene, even though it's not super exciting, I think is a really good setup for the whole episode, especially combined with the previous ones. So Vidi makes it clear to Sophia that he's not scared of her. And he's like, you've got 2 days to go to Italy, or I'll just tell everyone that's where you went. He's like, I don't give a fuck that you're crazy. I'm not scared of you. And again, we know from last episode that Oz has blackmail on him, but no one else knows that yet. So it's a pretty strong bargaining chip for him. And he does play it in this episode. So because they can't go through the family, Oz goes to a deputy of the Triads, which is essentially the Chinatown gang. And he's like, hey, I want you to get us a meeting with the head guy. And he has some weird name I can't remember. And he lies and says that Vidi is backing them. So it's not just Sophia. And again, this is when he uses that to play his blackmail chip on Vidi. And it's really great to see that all these things that are getting set up and all these lies each episode, he just keeps building on them and using them at the right time as leverage. So again, building Victor's character, we see that he's practicing talking to Oz because he wants to leave. He wants to go with his girlfriend, and he's not feeling like he's qualified for this lifestyle. And then a cop comes up and is like, hey, get out of the car. You're in a loading zone. He frisks him. He's like, that's a lot of money for a kid because he has all that money in cash that Penguin gave him. And Victor's quickly like, I don't have any money. And the cop kind of smiles, takes it as a bribe, and rolls out. He's like, as soon as your boss gets out, leave. Also really nice world building, obviously showing how corrupt Gotham is, and a big moment for Victor as he starts his path down, kind of getting used to the feeling of this kind of success, and really the first kind of power or influence he's had, presumably his whole life. So Sophia lets Oz kind of take the lead here. He names the drug Bliss. He lies about the connection to Vidi, and he's really leaning into the, you need to trust me. And she goes along with it, but she does say to him before their next meeting, like, they're here for me, not my driver, and kind of puts him in his place. So the dynamic between these two is pretty interesting, because really she's the one with all the influence within the family, which is all that matters for these mafia types. So Victor and Oz go out to this fancy restaurant, because this is part of their blackmail, is to talk to Luca's wife. So they're sitting down eating, and Victor is stuttering trying to order, and the waiter finishes it for him, and Oz is like, don't do that. So then we have to sit there again while he stutters through it again and finally gets through it. And then after the waiter leaves, Victor's like, you don't have to do that. And Oz is like, you're right, you should. Like, stand up for yourself. Who cares if they have to wait for a few seconds? They're on your time. You need to act like you're in charge. And then this conversation is another point for Victor moving in the direction of kind of prioritizing money and power over leaving with his girlfriend. He's talking about the food that his dad used to make and how his dad never had the chance for any fancy meals like this. And Oz is like pissed off on his behalf. He's like, that ain't right. So you can see that Oz is growing closer to him. Obviously, he's standing up for him and he actually seems to care about him. But then we're also getting insight into his mindset and sort of how envious he is of all the things that he didn't have, which is why I said I think this is going to set up for his downfall as the season goes on. So Oz goes to Tina, who is Luca's wife, who's the head of the family. And he's like, hey, you need to do me a favor and it's going to hurt. And this is his blackmail that he's finally using. So she goes in to hook up with Vidi, lets them know the place and time. They show up, interrupt, and essentially confront him and are like, look, you're going to make this fucking phone call. And he tries to threaten him, but Sophia laughs in his face. And then he makes fun of Oz as not being really useful and just kind of being around for amusement. And Oz fucking tortures him and like squeezes his tooth or something with pliers. And he's like, make the fucking call. And I like these little outbursts that he has because you can tell like what he's sensitive about. And he really doesn't like when people laugh at him or like mock him. So this all leads to the last part of the episode where Victor is being trusted with the drugs and money. And essentially he's walking around with a book bag, giving the girls drugs that work for Penguin. And then when they run out of drugs, they're giving him the money and getting more drugs from him. And then this also sets up the meeting between the head of the Triads and Sophia. So they have their meeting. The Triads are like, look, we don't really know you. I don't want to take this kind of risk. He's like, well, you knew your father. And she says, okay, get fucked. I'll go to another gang then for distribution, and you guys will be losing. And obviously this works because all these people are vying for power, and there's limited people you can sell drugs to in a city. So we see the hot cam girl is hitting on Vic. He goes through this weird PTSD where the bright lights make him see the explosions again, and he drops all the drugs and kind of freaks out. And this PTSD is recurring throughout the episode. It just kind of seems like bright flashes or loud noises set it off. So Penguin is excited they closed the deal, and he goes to celebrate with Victor. And this is when he sees Victor's phone blowing up. And he's like, let me see the phone. And he's like, you were going to leave? He's like, and do what? Die being a kid in the projects? No one's going to care about you. And he's like, when I found you, you were trying to steal my rims. And he's like, anything that you want to become, you can do it here. And he's like, but if you want to go, fucking go. And I like this because this is where you see how hurt he really is by what he views as a betrayal of someone that he took in and seems like he really took to him as a mentor apprentice type dynamic. And he really reminds him of himself. So this is when you see that he actually does care about him. It's not just using everyone around him. So Victor takes the Penguin's car, and you're kind of like, uh-oh. The first bold move that he's made. And he takes it, watches his girlfriend leave at the bus stop, and then comes back. So he's made his decision. So over the course of the episode, Sophia's been trying to figure out kind of why he fucked her over. And we don't really get the full details yet. But he was like, I didn't know what Carmine would do, but I didn't think he'd send you to fucking Arkham. And either he's putting on a really good performance, or to me, this is the first time it seems like he's being authentic in the whole season, really. Like this episode with Victor, and then this scene with Sophia. Outside of his little outburst where he's super pissed off at being mocked. And she asks if it was worth it. And he's like, yeah. And she's kind of surprised that he answered honestly. And he is a little bit emotional, but he's like, I've got the club, I've got the drops operation. Because she says you're not even a made man. And he's like, that might not mean much to you, but for a guy like me, that's a lot. And I like it because I like the argument and the difference of perspective where she started at the head of the family. So she views what he's doing as not shit. But he started out as dirt poor. We found out last episode he was a driver for a little bit, and then he worked his way up. And he really does seem to regret that she got fucked over, like he didn't know it was going to happen that way. Because she also says, I'm not the hangman. So I don't know if she's referring to she got framed, or if she's referring to, maybe whatever they did to her in Arkham changed her. Because she still always seems a little bit unhinged, so it's not quite clear to me yet. But it's a good scene. I feel like it's the first time we see who he really is, and that he's being honest with her. And this is really great because she's like, how can I trust you? And he apologizes and says that he can't undo what he did, but, give him a chance to show that she can trust him. But we know already that earlier in the episode, when he was talking to Victor, he was like, Luca will take care of it soon enough. And then this is, of course, when the Maronis show up and they know that he's been dicking around. And this scene feels really inspired by Breaking Bad to me, because this is when Victor gets back with the car, sees them at gunpoint, and then immediately acts and rams this Maroni guy with the car, allowing him and Penguin to escape. And when he says, what about Sophia? He says, fuck her. So clearly, even if he actually did care about her or feel those emotions, she was never part of the long-term plan. And that's the end of the episode. I thought it was a really good episode overall. Probably my favorite one so far. I thought episode 1 was a really good setup, but I like that you're starting to get the payoffs and things are starting to come together. And once the character is a little bit more fleshed out and you know who they are, I feel like the dynamics are a lot more interesting because their personalities are so much more clear. I don't have anything else to say, really. I was pretty happy with this episode. Definitely looking forward to next week. If you've been watching it, let me know what you think. I try to respond to all the comments that aren't just insults. And like and subscribe and all that shit. Thanks. See ya.